we just got the grant. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's been really, really fantastic to have that level of support.
Just got the grant day is the best, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm Erica Derrickson, and I'm founder of English Islands, and we're working to solve the literacy crisis in North America, where up to 2 out of 3 students are below grade reading level right now, which is a tremendous problem because when students fall behind in literacy, they tend to fall behind in almost every other subject, leading to them being 4 times more likely to drop out of school. So we're solving that with our AI-powered literacy tutor that listens to students as they read out loud, gives them precise feedback on mistakes, and sends all of that data to teachers as well to help them intervene exactly when and where students need help.
Hi, I'm Melanie Cote. I'm the founder of Do Good Donuts. At Do Good, we hire and train young adults with developmental disabilities and autistic youth through paid on-the-job training in our small community bakery so they can gain the skills and the experience and the confidence they will need to go on to thrive at work in the community.
I know one question that was top of mind for me is learning about the nonprofit side of things versus for-profit. Kind of curious to learn a bit more about the pros and cons of the nonprofit side and just hear your experience with that.
Yeah, when I founded Do Good Donuts, at that time I chose to incorporate through a nonprofit structure rather than a for-profit structure. At that time it really felt to me like the work that we were doing, the people that we were helping, and how they themselves as individuals with disabilities, but also the family supporting them and everything else, the work that we were doing really felt like no one should be profiting from that adventure. Now, in the time since then, I've learned a ton about what it's like to operate in a nonprofit structure. And we did go on to apply for and receive charitable status for our training program itself. So our business operates a bakery, community kitchens right now, and farmers markets, but the training itself is location agnostic. So the activities of our charity are surrounded by the training that we're doing. And the space that we're in, it can occur anywhere. And as we've tried to grow the business from our community spaces and our farmers market opportunities, the big challenge has been in a nonprofit model, the way that you access capital, loans, investment is very different than it is in the for-profit model. And for us, we have a ton of people who are really excited about what we're doing, and we have people who would invest if they could see a return on investment. But in the nonprofit model, the return on investment just doesn't work that way. So I think there's a lot of social value in having a nonprofit or having a charity. But I think if you're actually building a charity or a nonprofit business through an idea that can grow, can be scaled, can be franchised, can continue to be more than what a traditional charity does, if I was doing it now, I would have done it the other way around. I would have created the business and then built the nonprofit into the business rather than starting with the nonprofit, because we would be far further along our pathway if we had done it the other way around. And now trying to create a for-profit entity that is symbiotic with the nonprofit is much more complicated because it's not done nearly as often as the reverse with, think of any large corporation that has a foundation or a charity or a charitable entity or an arm's length charity. That's a process that makes sense. The other way around is something that people don't do very often, so trying to figure out has been a real challenge.
It's fascinating. Just to learn the downsides, actually, right? That it can actually be harder to grow and harder to scale because you chose the non-for-profit sector, right? Yeah.
And I think it's traditionally been like that because the expectation, for the most part, is in the sector that we're working in, hiring, employing, training young people with disabilities, that we wouldn't have a profitable business or a business that generates enough revenue that it could consider scaling and replicating the model rather than just staying put in the church basement with styrofoam cups of bad coffee and some sad baked goods that the folks made and isn't that great. And we sell, thousands and thousands of donuts a year, and yet we can't get out of our church basement situation, because all of the loans need to be like, we need to, if we want to borrow $10,000, they hold $10,000 in collateral. So it doesn't help us, because then we don't have the 10,000 we have to go with the 10,000 that we need. For instance, our credit card, that we're just getting a credit card for the first time now, and they hold the amount of the level of the credit card in a bond or a GIC to secure the credit card. So all the loans or credit card or anything else need to be secured. So we need to have twice as much money to be able to take half to secure the loans, to then get as much as we already have to be able to spend it. It's been, at least that's where we are, and I'm sure someone watching this probably has a bunch of ideas that I haven't found. But as a small charity without a parent company that's a for-profit, without a larger organization that's supporting this arm, it's really hard to secure capital. Yeah, wow. It's wild. And yet we have 7 families across the country who want to franchise, but they can't franchise something we haven't managed to build yet.
Wow.
So it's kind of it feels a little like a mouse in a maze sometimes.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what about you? So your structure is the opposite. So
yeah, well, we are a for-profit business. We're working with schools that are obviously not for profit, right? And it's something that comes to mind, especially because schools right now, they're facing a lot of budget cuts. They're facing a lot of struggles with, not even being able to hire as many staff as they want to be able to hire. And that makes it difficult for them to afford access to platforms that could help their students, right? So we are, trying to help out as much as we can with that side of things. And that's where it has come to mind from time to time. Is there a way for us to, partner with other organizations? For example, partner with nonprofits that are able to provide support to schools who don't have the budget for it. And so that's something that we're starting to look into a bit more. So kind of learning more about the nonprofit world, understanding how they work, and how they're able to help other organizations like educational institutions is something that I'm keen to kind of learn more about.
Yeah.
Why I wanted to just kind of learn what the world is like from your eyes, right?
I think a lot of it has to do with the basis of both our businesses, which is access to the kind of support people need to thrive in the future. And there's something about access which tends to bring to mind the metaphor of a door, right? Some people get to go through the door and some people don't get to go through the door. And so I think it's very common for us to think, how can there be more access? How can the doorway be bigger? How can the platform be larger? How can the people who can afford to pay, if it's a paid platform, then also help to fund the people who can't afford to pay?
Yeah.
And then trying to decide, how do you get from here to there?
Yeah.
And it's tough, because I think all of us, prior to doing this thing, these social ventures, see all of these problems in the world and can see solutions that seem so clear and so easy. And yet, once you're in it, you realize all of the ways that the world is set up to make it really hard, right? All of that access problem exists for a reason. It's the funding or the people or the people holding things close and not making them more readily available. Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough, it's a tough nut to crack.
It is. It is. Was it harder than you thought it would be?
Oh my gosh. It wasn't even just like 10 or 100 times harder. It was so much harder than I thought. Like, it just seemed so simple. We'll open a cafe. We'll set it up like other businesses that would tend to be the next place people would go to work, so that they're learning the systems and processes in the same way they'll do them later. We'll take disability-informed insights. It just takes longer for some people with developmental disabilities to move stuff from short-term memory to long-term memory. So you can't just show them something once and say, go do that. You have to do it a bunch of times. And while it may take somebody else who's learning a job, 2 or 3 tries before they get it right, it might take 6 weeks for somebody with a disability to get it right. but they're also not, yakking to their friends on the phone. They're not going out to the dumpsters and, doing whatever they're doing back there. And in 6 months, the productivity would be the same. But trying to convince people in that time where it doesn't seem like things are clicking, that this person has value and they will be a great employee is hard. So that's sort of what, the hope was, that if you can see how people progress with us, then you'll know when you have someone like that they will progress. You just need to be patient and get it right. Which seems so simple to me. But trying to build a cafe is not simple. Trying to get time with employers to learn more about their processes was simple. Trying to get the money to buy the equipment to set up the process like that, not simple. So it's been a number of years of just trying to eke our way forward. But the people that we've hired and the work that we're doing is all working out exactly as it seemed it would. It's just about trying to get everybody else on board that's challenging.
Yeah. And fascinating to hear as well about some of the pros, right, of hiring people with intellectual disabilities. Like, even though it might take a few more tries to learn that, to really solidify something into the long-term memory, maybe they're less likely, like you said, to be chatting away with their friends, which is an increasing problem, right, with younger employees that are, distracted on their phone, or, they're constantly talking to other people, things like that. So, yeah.
But it's the same, I would guess it's the same in reading. That for a lot of times in the experience that I've had with my daughter who has a disability in learning to read, it's more that she just needs the time and focus on the specific thing to be able to move forward. But in school these days, they teach it at one time, and there's nobody to go back and reinforce it. There's nobody to go back and teach it again if it didn't stick. The curriculum moves forward all through the year. And it's sort of like math. If you never learn multiplication, then you can't go on. It's much harder to go into division. It's much harder to go into fractions, right? You can't get there if you don't have the foundation. I think that your program sounds really fascinating. I'd love to hear more about the AI aspect. Can you tell me a little bit about how the program learns and moves forward? I think that's very cool.
Yeah, so essentially it's listening to the students as they read out loud, and it's catching the mistakes that they're making. And we're updating the platform over the summer, actually, to automate the process so that it will be automatically giving them the next step, right, that they're ready to, or giving them that support on something that they've missed multiple times, or if once they've passed through that, getting them to the next step where they can continue learning. So you mentioned, right, the difficulties of the curriculum just kind of moving ahead, regardless of whether or not students have understood that concept, a particular concept. And that's definitely a thing, right? Schools and teachers, obviously, they're doing the best that they can. But it's very, very hard. I come from an education background myself, and the very reason I set out to build English Islands is because as a teacher, you've got some 20-ish students in your class, and it is very difficult to keep as close of an eye as you'd like to on every single one of those students. It's pretty much impossible when you've got that many students in the class. They're all at different levels. Increasingly, actually, over time, the level that students come to you, whatever reading level they're at, the gaps are growing, right? So it used to be more kind of relatively around the same level. It's really, really expanded. So you've got students that are extremely low level, extremely high level, all in the same class. You're trying to teach them as best as you can, but you've got some 6, 7, 8 different levels of reading ability in your own class, right? So trying to teach all of those different grade levels, while at the same time notice if any student has started to fall behind in any particular area, it's really, I mean, we're asking teachers to do something very much impossible.
Yeah.
Right, and they're doing the best that they can, but it's you just can't with that many students, that many different grade reading levels in the classroom, and that's why I wanted to build this, right, is to be able to one, have something that students can learn independently on. So even if the teacher is working with, say, a small group of students to try to help them catch up, another group of students that isn't working at that time with the teacher can also continue to independently learn.
Right, so they're not missing out on learning time when if the teacher chooses to sort of create like a small classroom setting within the classroom, which I think I've heard happens more often. Like people get sort of put into groups by their levels and interest in competencies. Now it sounds fascinating, especially the AI portion, which I would, and I'm totally guessing here, would also really help students who have come in when they're not speaking English as a first language, but have picked English up and are now potentially for the first time really reading and using it for academics versus the conversational English that they've picked up in their time that they've been in Canada. Is that an avenue that AI, because for that, if they come from a country with the same alphabet, they may be stumbling on the pronunciation and the phonetics of the letters that would be pronounced or have different phonetics in their language, or it could be sort of a more comprehensive reading, like just needing to familiarize themselves with the quirks of the EIs and the ways that GHs do their things. Have you found as you've been putting the program together that that's another big avenue where it can be successful?
For sure, yeah. We have a lot of teachers that are helping students that are multilingual learners, so they're coming from non-native English speaking backgrounds, already using the platform for that specific purpose, right? And so it's both one to support their students as they learn to read, right? Because the way they learn to read is they're clicking on the letters and seeing and hearing the letter sound combinations, right? Yeah, exactly, right? So for example, like the word thought, for example, right? You've got a lot of letters in there,
but it sounds like THOT.
Exactly. It's actually only 3 sounds.
Yeah.
Right. So 3 sounds, but THOUGHT, right? That's 7 letters for 3 sounds.
Right.
So it's showing them exactly which groups of letters are making which sounds.
Yeah.
And that, especially for non-native English speakers, but for any student who's learning how to read, it can be very confusing as to why, the T is normally pronounced as T, but then when it's next to an H, now that has turned into th, right? It's a completely different sound.
Yeah. But it's T at the end.
But it is T at the end.
Just to remind you that the thing you first thought is also true in this exact word. Well, that's, combating that whole sight words problem. We are going deep into English language learning, but
for sure. Yeah.
What a fascinating, and how is it rolling out? How are you taking that ability to have the very low tech initial skill of reading to the high tech, tech world and getting it out there? How's that looking?
Oh, right. So you mean in the sense of coming from an education background and then jumping into the tech world, which is a completely different.
And then now having a product that you're trying to have. We have donuts in a park, so yours sounds way more exciting. Tell me more.
Oh, definitely not more exciting. But I think we can for sure relate on the difficulty, right, and the challenge. For me,
was it harder?
Harder to go into.
Harder to all of it? Was it all just harder than you expected?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Not just me.
Well, it wasn't because I was terrified, right? I think I was a little bit different from you, and you were like, oh, okay, I can do this, I've got this. I was absolutely terrified of jumping into a completely unknown world of technology and of entrepreneurship, and I was quite intimidated, but had a lot of support from my partner, who is a tech founder himself. So I'm very grateful for him too.
Oh, well, that helps a little.
That helps a little bit. And by little, I mean a lot.
I mean, well, and I don't mean that it makes it easier, but like there's if you have a question, there's someone you can like wave a fork at the dinner table and say, hey, have you ever dealt with this, or do you know someone? Which just in a you can sleep at night way makes it easier.
Yeah.
It doesn't minimize the work.
For sure.
There's just, I think, probably a blood pressure factor.
Exactly, right? The work is still there. I still got to do all the work, but just having someone either to bounce ideas off of, or when I'm stuck on something, maybe they've been through the same problem or something similar, or they know someone who has, And having that that aspect has definitely really, really made all the difference, I think, in terms of, you know, how we're able to get up and running and off the ground. I mean, there's still so many failures along the way, right? But it helps a lot. Have you had people that you were able to kind of turn to in your journey?
Yeah, there's certainly been some people along the way, I think, that have been able to be very supportive and answer a lot of questions. I think at the same time, there have been a lot of people that have just told me to, you know, that simply cannot be done.
Oh.
So I have really good selective hearing in that regard.
Fantastic.
But I think, you know, there's the food industry people, there's the developmental services and the education people, there's like the community and the corporation stuff. There's the social venture zone, which has been, I would say, the most exceptional aspect of my journey, and not just because I'm here talking to you about it. Every time I see anybody, I'm like, if you're going to start a social impact business, this is your first call. And I think it's because it's a place that draws together other people who are doing things that either haven't been done before, haven't been done in this way before. And a lot of the questions I have are, I haven't done this. How do I do this thing I haven't done? And other people say how they have done things that haven't been done. And then you just get that sense, similar to you, talking to someone across the dinner table, that there's a chance, or that there's a pathway that they took which can spark an idea about another, you know, another way to think about it or another way to approach a problem. So I think it's the problem solving that has been the biggest help.
Yeah.
And then as you said, the failures along the way, in those moments where it's like, oh, is this where I should quit? Like, is this the end of the line? I feel like meeting other founders who've been there and thought of something new or did something or tried something has been great for just soldiering on or enduring or surviving through the parts that feel challenging.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning the SVZ's support as well, because I mean the individual coaching, right, that I've received has definitely made a really huge impact on kind of knowing the way forward and seeing clearly what can be done, what needs to be done, things like that. But also even resources, right? Like the newsletter has been fantastic. Right? You know, we just saw recently in the newsletter about a grant opportunity. That was the only way I saw it, actually. Clicked on it and applied, and we just got the grant. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's been really, really fantastic to have that level of support.
Just got the grant day is the best, isn't it?
Yeah. But you mentioned those moments where you're like, okay, should I throw in the towel, right? Super curious, like you've actually had those moments.
Oh,
what got you through it?
Well, I think for me, my venture is very personal to me. I have a daughter who has a disability, and I would really like her to grow up in a world where she sees that there's opportunities and possibilities, then she can have a self-determined future. And I think that for me, every time I feel like, okay, we're at the end of the line, then, you know, well, like, is this like, am I going to say this isn't possible? Like, if I don't believe that it's possible, how can she or potential, you know, anybody else? So I think that enduring commitment to finding a way to make that possible is what keeps me going, even at times where it feels like, throw up my hands, the money's never coming, we're never going to grow. I can't believe this, like I had a whole plan and I have to make a whole new plan. How many plans are there? I think it's just that enduring belief that these young people belong at work. And somebody has to believe, because they don't, or their parents are tired and the employers are, you know, set in their ways. And I think I just believe it's possible. And if someone else come along and they had all kinds of money and they just wanted to hire me to be their like possibility person and keep possibling, I would totally take the job. I do not need to do it myself. But at this point, I feel like I kind of do, because no one else really is trying to find a new way through that wall. So I think that's what it is.
Right.
Just believe it's possible.
Yeah, yeah. And well, amazing, right, that you have your daughter to keep you going even when you're questioning everything.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just incredible that, you know, you're so committed to changing the world even, right? Or changing starting obviously with your local area, but making a world where it's possible for her to, get a job just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
And she's only 12, so it's not like it's like, oh, I'm making this so she can work here.
Mm-hmm.
I made this so she can see it's possible for her to work wherever she wants, which I think is also a distinction. And for a lot of the people who've come to us for franchising, most of them, their kids would be, most of them are parents of kids with disabilities, and their kids are older, so they'd like a place where their kid can work, but also, they can hire other people to work.
Yeah.
And I thought I could do that when she's that age, but why not do it now so that when she gets there, she doesn't have to work for her mom. She can go and work at all kinds of other places. Because if it works, they don't really need us, really.
Yeah.
It's more about changing the approach to training than it is about actually creating a place that hires the people. So we'll see how, you got a grant, we got some funding to make a food truck.
Yeah,
We're making
I'm excited
a
for the food truck.
I know. We just got the rest of the money for the food truck. I can't say anything yet. Still top secret gift giving.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's exciting. That gives us, and again, these little moments happen where you kind of take a step up. It's like, oh, now we're growing a little bit. We can go a little further. We can take our products to more people. We can hire more young people once we have more job places for them to work. And a food truck gives us a different location versus the markets and stuff. So it inches along, surprisingly.
Step by step.
And then you look back and you're like, wow, I've come a long way since, And you look. I think the rearview mirror also helps a little.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're, in the trenches every day, and just trying to push forward. Sometimes you lose sight, right, of exactly how far you've come, right?
Yeah.
But then you take a moment, and you're like, I really was literally just in my room, making, doing sort of like customer interviews in the beginning days where we kind of just threw something together in Figma and showed it to people, and that was all I was doing at that time, right? And going from that to being able, to work with schools, work with districts, and you see the improvement in their students and their learners. It's a slow but fast process at the same time, and one day you wake up and you're actually doing the thing that you hoped you were doing.
Hoped you would do.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's interesting with your product. You said that it records the student, and then so you have like tangible, privatized ways to actually hear the difference it's making with students.
Yeah. You can see teachers are able to see all of the data. So this student is, for example, struggling with this particular. The technical word is phoneme grapheme correspondence, but a more kind of common way to say it would be letter sound combination.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, just to go back to the word thought, like I mentioned, if a student is struggling with that th being pronounced as th, then it will show up as right on the chart, and the teachers are able to see, oh, okay, the student has missed the th pronounced as th. They've missed that 70% of the time.
Right.
So they know right away.
Like, tuh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they're able to see really quickly exactly where they're struggling with any particular combination, right, of letters and sounds.
Now, I think you're a mom too. Is that right?
Well, stepmom.
Stepmom, right? You are a stepmom, and in your life as a parent, step-parent, did your child have any, or did the child that you co-parent with, did that child have any reading or learning difficulties?
She was okay.
She was okay, so there was smooth sailing there.
And that was, that was after so she was kind of a bit older when I had initially
but
met
in her
father.
history, it's not really a part of her history.
It wasn't, no, she was okay. So that wasn't directly related.
So how do you and your tech founding husband manage your parenting time and your self-actualization as parents with being entrepreneurs and founders? What has that journey been like for you? Feels like I need to change position for this one.
That's a good question. So there's pros and cons to everything, right? So I'll start with the cons, and then we can end with the happy. The cons, obviously, we're both insanely busy, and we both have high-stress jobs, and we both are, just it's a challenge, right, to get by, right? In the sense of everything's constantly changing, you're constantly trying to grow, and it's go, right? So the cons are painfully apparent. But I think what maybe a lot of people might not be as cognizant of is the pros, which is now that we're both in the startup world, in the, being entrepreneurs, and he's actually been doing it for many, many more years than I have, but at least from my perspective, I really understand him at a level that I don't think I ever would have if I hadn't tried to build a startup. Mm-hmm. I think prior to me starting this journey, I definitely didn't understand why, it's 7 o'clock at night on Friday or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock on Friday, and he's trying to solve a problem. Part of me just couldn't fully get that. On one level I could, but on one level I couldn't. And now I 100% get it, right? If there's a fire, you just got to put out the fire. And it doesn't matter if it's a holiday, 9 o'clock at night, and there's other things to do. Sometimes you just have to get something done, right? So that has definitely been a new level of appreciation for anyone who's trying to build something. But also, I wish I had this understanding when I was younger, right? Because I think for all of the different jobs that I've had, for all of the people that I've worked for, I would have had so much more appreciation for the difficulty of them building a company, right? For the smaller companies that I worked with, right? Yeah. Or for all of the different pieces of the puzzle, right? I think I never understood that when I was working for other people, but now, having had to build all of the puzzle pieces, or almost all of the puzzle pieces, myself, I definitely have a newfound appreciation for the complexities of business and why, certain resources might not be available at certain times, things like that. Man, I wish I had this understanding, because I would have been so much more appreciative, so much more grateful for everyone that I worked for in the past.
Yeah. And if there was, I'm always so curious about this question. I ask lots of people, and I'm going to ask you, and then you're probably going to ask me, and I don't know if our answers would be the same. But if like a magic wand was waved and somebody came in and was like, "That's it, we're buying your company, it's done, take all the money," would you start another one?
Would I start another one?
Yeah.
Well, assuming that I said yes to that, right?
Yeah.
Because right now I would say no, for sure.
Yeah. But if you were like ready to let, like if it was time, you've done this once, would you do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see myself doing anything else other than businesses at this point. As crazy as it is and as insane as it's been. For one, I think having the understanding of having been through so many failures, having made so many mistakes, that is one of the most painful parts, is out of the way in one sense, because a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work, right? And so you're not going to make a lot of the same mistakes again. So the first startup, I think, is probably the hardest in many ways, right? And you can use a lot of that understanding, a lot of the knowledge that you gained to the second one. But then at the same time, in the back of my head, there's also the birdie saying, no, actually, it might not be any easier. It might even be harder, because if I went into a different industry, right? If I went into, I don't know, like health foods or something like that, just as an example, it would be completely different. And it would for sure, there'd be so many different things that I didn't understand about that industry, about how people work and think and function in that world. And I would probably, I might make just as many failures, but at the same time, once you've had that taste, at least for me, the taste of being able to build something from scratch, being able to bring something to the world that didn't exist, and having the luxury of having the freedom to schedule, everything how your own schedule, the freedom to build things how you want to build them. It would be very hard for me to go back to being told what to do. I'd have an appreciation for it, and I'm sure I would enjoy it in different ways that I wasn't able to in the past. But yeah, I love building. I absolutely do. So now I have to ask you as well, because I'm curious to hear, would you do it all over again?
I would. I wouldn't do it with food, but I would.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it with food. I think I would be similar to you. So you did tech to food, and I would probably think about like if trying to because the point of Do Good was to kind of test out an approach to training,
Okay.
and then build the lab in which you test the approach, right?
Yeah.
So the cafe, the church basement, the market, that's all the lab where the training plays out. I think I'd focus more on the actual training or the the people part,
Yeah.
and then find a lab that existed in which to test the product, similar
Yeah.
to a lot of the tech stuff, right?
I was going to ask you about that because food. So my partner works in food.
Well, maybe they
In
have some
some
time to
sense.
give someone some advice.
Has a lot of experience in food. He's kind of working less in food recently, I would say, but
Yeah.
has a long background of working within the food tech industry. And
Yeah.
so I've heard a lot. And I have a peripheral understanding of the complexities and the difficulties and the challenges of food. And that made me think, why did you start with food? And it sounds like you would completely not do food if you were to start all over again. So it sounds like you've probably faced some challenges as well.
Well, I would say that it wouldn't necessarily be. It could be food tangentially related. I started in food because the biggest employers of young people are the Tim Hortons, the McDonald's, the Starbucks, the restaurants, the grocery stores, all of those sorts of things
Okay.
are the places that many people get their first jobs. And almost all of those organizations have somewhere at their home office people sitting somewhere in that rabbit den that are thinking, we really need to work harder to hire more young people with disabilities. We have, it's part of who we are, it's what we value, but we're not having successful, it's not successful. We're not bringing people into enough kinds of jobs. Often they'll do one sort of job. They're doing the grocery carts, maybe they're stocking shelves, but they're not necessarily working with customers for the most part. They're not necessarily working in the food prep part in areas that prep food. So I started in food as a pathway to try to change how we train young people to get the same jobs everybody else does. So that's why food made sense for me. It's just where the most people hire. There's just where the jobs are. I think if I was doing it again, knowing what I know now, I would have done the work for the training program, but then worked to figure out how to embed it within the existing organizations. So it's, learning to work with people who already hire. But we needed to know if the training worked before we did that. So I basically built a lab that's been going on that hasn't been able to grow into I've got the little lab, but then haven't gotten to the big lab where it's now we have the big equipment and we can do more testing and bring in more, test subjects to test the thing. So I would focus more on the experiment itself and less on the lab, I think.
Right. I get it. Yeah. But at the same time, because you've been an operator, right? You've been doing it. Now you have that proof, right? That what you do works. And if you hadn't started with that, ironically, it might have even been more difficult.
Right.
Right.
I feel like you needed both the cart and the horse at the same time. I think. And now we have customers and we sell a lot of what we make, and we have people asking us for more of it, and it's working out. The goal has always been to franchise, but I think that would be a whole other set of people, a whole other set of skills, a whole other set of if we were to grow to that, we'd have a whole company full of people doing a whole bunch of things. Right now it's me, a board, some summer students, and the people we hire.
Yeah.
Which when you say it like that, it's remarkable that it's made it this far. But I think we've sold now more than 30,000 donuts.
Wow.
Which, considering we don't have an actual location, farmers markets are only 6 hours a week.
Wow.
So 6 hours a week, the number of retail hours we have in the summer at the farmers market would be equivalent to our cafe being open for 6 weeks of the year.
Wow.
Like in full-time cafe
And
hours.
30,000 donuts.
Yeah.
6 weeks, not, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it's, when you think about it,
Yeah.
it's going okay.
It's
I'm
more than
excited
okay, I
to,
think.
I'm excited to drive around in a pink truck, I'll tell you that.
Where do people get these donuts, and when is the food truck coming? I'd love to learn more about that.
Well, the donuts are easy. We're at Greenwood Park, so Leslieville Farmers Market in downtown Toronto, every Sunday from 2 a.m. from, that's me, from 9 a.m. You can find us at Greenwood Park every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the Leslieville Farmers Market, and then we're going to be at some other pop-ups and other events throughout the summer. We do corporate catering, so you can send us an email and always order donuts or cookies or any of the other things that we're making. I'm hoping the food truck will be on the road this fall, but it depends on the lead time for how long it takes us to get a truck. I've started talking to a couple of manufacturers, people who make the food trucks. I've got a connection to a dealer of the company that sells the trucks, so I'm hoping that we'll be here on the road before the snow flies, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And what about you? Where do educators who are curious about how they can access your program to help their students, or other individuals who work in this space who want to know more information, find you guys?
Yeah, so our website's englishislands.com with an S at the end of islands, so englishislands.com. And then we're on Facebook as well, so a lot of educators are more on Facebook, and LinkedIn as well for the admin side. For principals, district leaders, we're also updating there.
Excellent. I really hope you have so much success. Learning to read is a real something that I care deeply about. Obviously, with my daughter, I family are all teachers, so I think what you're doing is great, and I'm hoping that it makes such a huge impact, both for the educators, but more importantly for all of the students who are really just trying to get by and don't have the skills and support that they need to be able to move forward.
Thank you so much. And likewise, you're doing amazing things. I can't wait to hear how the food truck goes. I can't wait to go to the food truck when you get it up and running. And I can't wait to see the franchise. I think it sounds like you've got something there. I'm excited to see the franchise take off as well, and just the many ways that you may grow from here.
Well, I'm sure that at Caffeinated Innovators at the Social Venture Zone, we'll definitely pull up our trunk once it's ready to go. So everyone who's involved in Caffeinated Innovators will be able to enjoy delicious donuts from our pink truck as soon as it's ready.
Sounds like a party. Looking forward to that.
Thank you so much.